Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Circular Economy Challenges and Opportunities podcast. I'm your host, Maerhaba Yishake. Understanding and implementing sustainability in complex systems requires clear communication, collaboration, and practical tools that turn data into real decisions. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Paul Prinssen, co-founder of EcoReview. Since 2019, EcoReview has specialized in life cycle assessment, or LCA, and the environmental cost indicator known in Dutch as MKI. These tools help measure environmental impact across materials and construction choices and make sustainability more concrete in design and procurement. Paul holds a master's degree in innovation science from Utrecht University. We're also joined by Stein Wieskamp, who studies industrial design and management at Saxion University of Applied Sciences. Stein, do you have something to add to that introduction?
No, I'm thankful to be here. And I'm interested in what our expert has to say. So let's start.
Thank you for joining us. So, Paul, can you explain LCA, or ECI to someone completely new? How would you make it understandable in some simple images or analogy?
I always try to use the example of the nutrition table, which we are so familiar with on our food products in the supermarkets. There is a research going on to produce such a table. And the analogy in the environmental cost indicator would be that is the methodology, the LCA, the assessment of the life cycle of a product. And then the end result that we come up with is a list of proteins, fats, sugars, salts, etc. And that says something about the effects on your body: protein for your muscles, fat in your fat, carbohydrates for energy. And the same goes true for the environmental cost indicator. It is a table on all kinds of building products, and they tell you something about the environmental effects that you see on global warming, on water use, on the ozone layer depletion. So it informs you about the environmental effects of the product, just like the nutritional table informs you about the effects that the food will have on your body.
Stein, did you understand that?
Yes, I think I understand it. Yeah, it's just like a label. Just as you want to know what's in the food that you're eating, you would like to know, what's the process
impact
behind and the environmental impact on the products you're using.
Yep.
Do you trust the label that's on food? Like, do you ever wonder if it's just randomly put up by someone, or do you really trust it?
Well, I would say for most products, I do trust it, especially if they're sold in just normal supermarkets. Then I think there should be a lot of checks on what's in it. But I wouldn't trust it blindly 100% to say I believe it's always true.
Yeah. But does it make you choose the products differently? Do you actually use the label when you choose different products?
No, not specifically for comparing, let's say, different brands between one product. But I do sometimes use labels to see, okay, what foods do have a lot of protein in it, or does it have a lot of fat, or the calories?
Yeah. While preparing for this podcast, I also read that the LCA score of plastic bags and paper bags, I was surprised to find out actually that plastic bags have a lower LCA score, or a better LCA score, let's say, and less environmental impact according to the assessment.
Yeah.
What is your reaction to that?
It is known by myself because in the environmental structure, we also use it a lot for packaging. And their plastics have the annotation of being pollutants or being bad, etc. But when you look through an LCA perspective, it's not. And then for a paper, there's a lot of production going on. A forest has grown, a lot of water, a lot of energy use. But it depends on whether you're only looking at the production of the paper bag or whether you're also taking into account multiple use, and will the paper bag and the plastic bag be thrown into nature or will it become recycled? And then if it's going into nature, the paper bag will always win because it will break down in a few weeks to non-harmful substances, while the plastic bag will do harm, including microplastics, etc. But when the end of life is correct and they'll both be burned or incinerated, the plastic bag, according to LCA, will have a lower environmental impact.
So if we don't consider the end of life, how these products are returned, let's say, to nature, plastic bags has less environmental impact.
That is known by myself, and the same goes on. Like, do you prefer drinking from a can bottle or a plastic bottle or a glass bottle? No matter what you drink, it's always 333 milliliters of drink of the same product, and they have 3 types of packaging. And you probably choose the packaging that you just like to drink the most out, but they will have 3 different life cycle impacts. And that is less known to people. That it's not just your preference of taste, what you drink for, but that your choice of what type of packaging you drink from will have consequences in the environmental impact.
And what do you think about that, Stein?
Well, you told me on Monday what you said about the plastic and the paper bag. And at first when you asked me which do you think is better, I, of course, said the paper bag because, there's been a lot of change in recent years from seeing, way more paper being used, not only for bags, but also for packaging. Straws, for packaging, for cups, for everything. So, then you would assume paper bags would be better. I thought a little bit about it after and I discussed it at home. And then I did understand if you look at the full cycle, the full LCA with the different steps, then I can understand if you also take the gathering of the resources and the production, and then also how it's recycled. Because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but paper is harder to recycle also if you want to break it down and then reuse it. If you look at it in the full picture, then but it still confuses me a little bit. Yeah,
but we also have to think about like the microplastic, what we are talking about with using plastic straws and stuff like that. So we are not considering that, only looking at the shorter life cycle of these products. But how did you get into life cycle assessment, Paul?
Yeah, it was not a 1, 2, 3. I never had life cycle assessments in school or university. It was when I met my companion from now EcoReview that showed me that there was a way of looking at sustainability through the life cycle steps that we use in construction materials. And once you see those steps, you can't unsee it anymore. So there's a producing step, there's an installment step, there's a use phase, a demolition phase, and then possibly a reuse phase. And once you start looking at the world around you through, in this case, these 5 phases, you can't unsee it anymore. You just comprehend the world around you better. And it is kind of addictive. It is.
You focus on certain products at your company, EcoReview. Which are these products? And the sectors?
Yeah, everything infrastructure related. So that is the pavement that you walk on or your cycling road, the highways, but also the sewage system and the public lighting system. Then we have some for building constructions, offices and houses, not so much. And we have some for heat pumps nowadays and batteries.
Yeah, quite a lot of different products
It's broad,
or product categories.
but for example, it also includes a lot of products that it doesn't include, such as textiles, such as food, such as the space around you for tables and chairs, etc.
Yeah,
that's not often.
Okay. I also heard that life cycle assessment is quite well known in the Netherlands. We talked briefly about MKI or ECI. Can you explain that a little bit, Paul?
Yeah. So then we go back to the nutrition table. It typically informs you about 8 sorts of effects on your body. And it's never that one of those effects of a similar product scores better than on all those effects, on protein, on salt, etc. So therefore, you want a single score metric. And in supermarkets, we also have the Nutri-score. You can say a lot about that score, but it is at least simple and easy to understand. And the same goes on. We can simplify an LCA table to an ECI, environmental cost indicator score. And that is also a single point score. And the lower, the better. And that makes it easy for us to compare products. One single point, lower is better, because your choice will never depend solely on sustainability.
No, and the ECI is from 0 to 10, right?
The ECI goes from 0 to infinity.
Infinity even. Okay.
Yes, because a product can be as large, or a project can be as large as infinity. It's the same as cost price. The minimum cost price is 0, and it goes from thousands to millions to billions. Just how large the project is.
So if you want to have no impact, then you have to go closer to 0 as your ECI score.
Yeah, that would mean there are no shadow effects of the project or the project involved. And the next question is, most often, can it also be negative? In theory, it can be negative.
Yeah.
But there are rarely products that have a negative impact on the LCA score.
In sorry for that. Did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I was curious, because if you want it to be negative, as far as I understand, the score is about the impact that you have also on the environment and everything. But if it's negative, then your whole LCA of the product then should have a positive impact on the environment. So instead of destroying anything, then you need to help the environment with your products. And in theory, then your score could be negative.
Yeah.
Or
in circular economy, we also call it regenerative. So you have the handprint and then the footprint. Footprint usually refers to something you are like the negative, and handprint is more the positive, so regenerative. With your product, you could, in theory, exactly have a positive environmental impact.
Yeah.
I don't think you see it often, right?
No, it's very rare, but there are natural materials, that if they decompose or then they absorb CO2, or they have a positive influence on acidification or eutrophication, etc. But still, every time you spend energy or transport or you upgrade something, there is impact. So it can be that the steps are negative, but overall of the project, it's always positive, and that's not a good thing in this case, because a positive impact is an impact.
Yeah, exactly. And why is making environmental impact, we are talking about impact, visible using LCA or ECI, is crucial for the circular transition or any transition?
Yeah. Well, I think you never lifted a kilogram of CO2, or you've never touched the hole in the ozone layer, or even seen the hole in the ozone layer, because it can't be unseen. And with many environmental effects, they're invisible to see. If you can't see anything, it's hard to care about it. Even global warming, you can only see it because we have a temperature measurement device that tells us there is a global warming.
Yeah, or the temperature is
rising. You see the melting, yeah. And for that, LCA is, for me, the least worst method.
Least worst method. Explain that.
It's not a perfect method, but it makes a lot of environmental effects quantitative and therefore measurable, therefore visible, and therefore people care or want to mitigate or want to spend more money for less environmental impact.
Yeah.
So you can only adapt your behavior if there is something measurable. And my preference is always to numbers so that we keep away from greenwashing or...
Yeah. Do you agree with that, Stein?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people is what they don't see, they don't care about. Out of sight, out of mind. As long as you have no idea what's going on, then you probably just think, okay, I'm letting it go by. It's really important to be able to visualize some of the impacts that cannot be really seen, but are gonna impact also our futures on the long term.
So how do you help the public procurement to make better decisions? Do you have some, what is your experience about that? Do you feel like they make better decisions if they see relatively different LCA scores? Yeah,
and for that, the first step is indeed having the information readily available. And once it's readily available, you can put action on it. It's the same with the nutrition tables now. There is a sugar tax going on in England and there's a sugar tax going on in the Netherlands. It's based on the nutrition table. And you can only make environmental costs imply as a government or as a sector if the information is there. So what you see is first it's forced to have the information readily available with the LCA. And then governments also have an instrument to take the environmental costs into consideration in tenders. And that is what happened in the Netherlands. So when an infrastructural work is being tendered by a local, regional or central government, they say, okay, present us with an economic price in euros. Make sure that you tick all the boxes on quality, minimal quality standards. But then you also have to calculate the environmental costs with an LCA. And you add the shadow price up to the economic price. And then we see which of the interested parties have the lowest fictional price. And the fictional price is a true pricing method. It includes economic prices that you have to pay and the shadow price that the environment normally pays.
So with that, many organizations still struggle with changing regulations, stakeholders, and the market pressure, right? So you have to, there's market pressure for price in terms of price and stuff like that. And how does LCA help that or go against that?
Yeah, we already do it a lot with the ATS system where we price carbon. And I think market mechanisms are the way to transition to a less pollutant, less impactful world. Once you can make environmental impacts measurable, you can take it into a true pricing account. And then we can have the markets not only compete what we did in the past 100 years for lowest price and economies of scale, etc. But we have a more interesting game where it's not just about price, it stays important, but it's also about the environmental impact. And it is my belief that we, society, but also working as factory people, etc., it is more interesting not only to have a race to the bottom on price, but to have a race where there is a healthy ratio between economic price and environmental price.
So you look into different values you create as a company, sustainable, like a social, economic, and environmental value. So you don't only look into the economic value you create as a company, and then you can balance that using like measurements or tools like LCA.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's always the environment that pays the shadow costs. And in the end, we as society are the ones that have to pay those mitigation costs.
But can you give us a very specific example how the LCA works for our listeners in real life?
The like a project or the theory?
Maybe the theory, the main steps, and how does it work? How do you do it at your company at EcoReview?
Yeah. And here I will just skim the surface. But you start asking, so let's take this pencil as an example. You knock on the door of the producer of a pencil and say, okay, when you make this in the factory, what inputs do you have? And they say, well, we have an energy contract. We need wood. We need graphite. We need rubber. We need the paint to make the lines. And then we contact all the suppliers and ask, do you have already specific LCA data of this or not? If not, there is a database that includes all the material in the world, and they have a general environmental profile.
Yeah.
And when I say all the materials in the world, I mean all the materials in the world. It's like it's a cool hobby to go to the database. And then we take the recipe of one pencil, so how many grams of paint and wood, etc., and we all put it into a LCA software program. It's too difficult to do it on a piece of paper. You need specific software. And basically, you press enter. The software has a playbook built in, so that no matter who is the researcher behind the computer, it always goes according to if this, then that standard rule book. Yeah. Press enter, and
you get the score.
You get the score.
Yes.
Yeah, including a 30-page report that describes all the
what the scores mean.
Yeah, but also what you as a human or as a researcher did, because there is still a human factor.
Exactly, human element.
Sending up an LCA, and to make it reproducible, because that is like the scientific background. It has to be reproduced by another, same input, same output. You write a whole report with all the choices being made.
Very nice.
Man, now I mostly hear about the manufacturing and the suppliers and everything. Do you also take in account what happens during at a phase where the product is used? Because some products, of course, also have impacts during the use. And then, of course, the end of life phase, where you either destroy the product or try to reuse, recycle, whatever. Is it also being taken into account, or? Yeah.
And the name implies it as well, life cycle assessment or analysis. But we came from a world past 10 years where you would only focus on the production of the materials, and A1 till A3. Nowadays, we take into scope the use phase and the disregard phase and the possible future reuse phase.
Yeah.
And that makes a whole different picture. So there are products, for example, plastics, which most often win compared to, for example, cotton products or clothing, if you only look at the producing step. But once you take a full life cycle into scope, other materials or other products, they score environmentally lower. And that is the human part in LCA as well. What do I take into scope? And what assumptions do I make for the life cycle? And
to make the informed decisions.
Yeah. So clothing is not my specialty. But for example, the 40 times that you wash your clothes have more environmental impact than the production stop of your clothing.
So you also produce or you release microplastic if you use synthetic clothing in the washing of the clothes. for organizations and entrepreneurs just starting with LCA, or they have products they want to have the LCA score involved in their products or decision making, what would you advise them to do?
Yeah. The first step that people or producers think when confronted with an LCA is, I just need the table, no matter what's in there. First mover advantage. I have carried out an LCA research. My competitors didn't. And just because I have this LCA report, it's proof that I'm better. Then, slowly on, some competitors are also starting to make LCA report. And then it's about, let's compare numbers. Who has lower ECI scores? But that is still not a mature way to look at it. In every product, there are 3 main ingredients. It's economic price, it's the quality of your product, and then the third variable is the LCA score. And the race is not to have the lowest LCA score possible. It is, what is the market willing to pay in balance between price, quality, and environmental impact? So even as a producer, if you're not having the lowest LCA score of your product, but the ratio between price and quality in LCA is what people are interested in, you have market dominance.
Yeah. So you have the 3 variables where you need to look into when you make the decisions. Yeah. From the both sides, consumers and also from the producers.
And side. 2 of them are conventional, like we always had price and we always had quality for the past 200 years. Yeah. And the only new variable is the third variable, is environmental impact. Yeah. And most often producers, they want some assistance with that third variable in relation to the ones that they are fluent, price and quality.
Yeah. Stein, you study industrial design and management. Do you use LCA in your study program?
Yes, we have used it for a little bit. We had a module on product design. And there we learned about the theory of the LCA and what impact it has also in designing a product, because it also is being taken into account already in the designing phase a lot now, to see, okay, how can we design it that we can also include some of the LCA parts to try to make it to have it the best score it can have, while still also being good or up to standard with the other quality wishes of the customers. But something I was curious about, because we talked about the LCA score and the ECI, but is there a difference between the ECI and like the full LCA score, or is it a bit comparable, or how does that work?
Yeah,
good question.
Yeah, the ECI score is a simplification of a whole table. So a normal LCA score will include about 200 variables. Way too much to grasp and way too much if you want to compare 2 products. So there is a formula to make an LCA into an ECI score. And without going into details, you just smash the whole table together and you have one single score.
So you summarize everything to simplify it.
And you lose a lot of information. It's the same as when you have the nutrition score as a diabetic person or as an obese person. There's nothing about the Nutri-score. You want the exact amount of sugar, or you want the amount of fat, etc. The same goes with the environmental cost indicator. Lower means generally better, but there's no clue with the exact amount of CO2, ozone emissions, acidifications, etc. So LCA is like for scientists interesting. ECI is interesting for more broad people who have the balance between price, also single metric, quality with all the norms, and a single metric for the environmental impact.
Yeah. Is it clear?
Yes, it's clear.
Stein, if you can ask one more question, what would you like to ask Paul?
Well, I'm more a bit curious about your actual work with your company. So how do I see it? Are you more of like a consultant that helps company making decisions based on LCAs and everything? Or how should I see your everyday work?
The majority of the work is that that our clients are just willing to have the LCA score carried out, just as food products nowadays. They just want the table and they want it correct. What I see and what I do in the company most is I explain to them that simply having an LCA is nice, is interesting, etc., but it only costs you money. It's a bureaucratic process. And I want to flip the table and see, okay, yes, there is an economic cost involved in setting up an LCA, but there's an even greater value to be taken out from having the environmental impact out there.
Yeah.
It's the same as with the energy efficiency of products that we use.
Yeah.
Once you start comparing products not only on price but also on their energy efficiency, you're just making some calculations in your mind and you say, what is the return of investment on this product? And you're likely to buy higher quality products with better energy efficient.
But Paul, as a company, do you also provide advice for the companies, or only the calculation of the LCA?
We are moving towards being a strategic partner in advisory because of the rise of software automation and artificial intelligence.
Yes, AI.
There will be a time where you just say, this is my product, this is all the materials that I use. You put it in, press the whole button, and
you get the score. But it doesn't say a lot, right? Until you analyze the whole picture.
Yeah, you have to be able to interpret the results, but also have a look at what is the market doing, what are the competitors doing, and what would be the economic price of lowering the environmental cost price.
Yes. Given time, I need to wrap up our conversation. But Paul, if you need to just say the closing line about LCA, what would you like to share with our audience?
It starts with making the invisible visible, have it quantitative in a single score, and I hope that we would in the future always communicate two numbers. What is the price of your product and what are the environmental costs of your product? And in that way, people have the information available and can make the choices that they feel comfortable with in their each situation.
Yeah. And Stein, anything you would like to add to that?
No, I just think also for the casual listeners, it's important to really think about this and to really try to include this also in your future, in your career, because it's becoming more and more important to also really watch the environment.
Yeah.
And we need to do it together, all of us. So
exactly, to also consider the environmental impact next to the market value, as you said, and the production quality or the quality of the products.
Yeah, and don't be fooled by maybe a product that's really low impact in, let's say, the production phase. But then if you would look at the full picture, then maybe the gathering of the resources or the eventual end of life phase can still be really bad. So that's sometimes a marketing trick to let you think it's low impact, but if you look at the full picture, so don't be fooled so easily.
Yeah. So Paul, Stein, thank you very much for sharing your insights and for being here, Stein, and asking questions about LCA and ECI. It really shows that sustainability becomes much more practical when we can actually measure it and see it, as you said, in our decision making. Thanks as well, everyone. So for our listeners, for me, one key takeaway is that it's hard to improve what you can't see. And the tools like LCA can help the invisible visible. Thanks for the listeners and to the podcast Circular Economy Challenges and Opportunities. See you next time.
See you next time.
Yeah, thank you.